Hold my hand inside your hands.
We continue with St. Paul now in Ephesians 5, the 5th chapter of the epistle to the Ephesians. And he says in verse 22 till the end, "Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church." So it is about submission, and we'll try to understand what St. Paul means. "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing of the water through the word. Husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself." And if you don't love your wife, you will have a difficult life and a difficult relationship at home. So you want to love yourself, love your wife. "For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church." In other words, if you want to understand the submission of the wife to the husband, and to understand the relationship as a whole of the husband and the wife, you have to understand carefully the relationship of Christ and the church. Otherwise, you will understand it all in a social context away from the biblical message and the good news, the Bible. So, when you understand the relationship of the Trinity, you understand the relationship of the family as well. About submission, let's see how the Son of God submits to the Father as well. And this is in the 15th chapter of Corinthians, the first. And it says, "Then the end will come when he," that is Christ, the Son of God, "hands over the kingdom to God the Father. After he has destroyed all dominion, authority and power." That's Christ having destroyed all authorities, dominion and power. Evil powers, of course. "For he," that's Christ, "must reign until he has put all his enemies under his feet. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. For he has put everything under his feet." Now, the he in this sentence is the Father. "For the Father has put everything under the feet of the Son." Now, when it says that everything has been put under him, it is clear that this does not include God himself, who put everything under Christ. When he has done this, when everything has been done and happened by Christ victorious on everything, then the Son of God himself will be made subject or submit to him who put everything under him, so that God may be all in all. In other words, in short and paraphrasing, Christ will gather the whole creation himself and overcome all enemies such as death and sin. And then, taking the whole creation in his bosom, Christ and the creation would submit to the Father, so that God the Father becomes all in all. All his attributes by nature would be given to us by grace to enjoy and to live with him eternally. So the Son submits or becomes subject to, which is the same word as submit, and in the Arabic it's submit. Al-ibn yakhda' lil-ab. Again, equality of the Father and the Son. So the submission here has nothing to do with the social context. So St. Paul again is talking about receiving, accepting love, coming into a hug, embracing the Father by the Son and the Son by the Father. So the submission of the woman to the husband then must mean the same. Receiving, accepting, appreciating, cherishing the love offered by the husband and offering the same. This is the biblical meaning of submission. If you take it in the social context, you corrupt the Bible, you corrupt our faith, and you corrupt your marriage and the family relationship. I'm sure this point is absolutely clear. I will read some parts from this lovely book, The Sacrament of Love by Paul Evdokimov from St. Vladimir Seminary Press. And in page 17 here he says, when it is simplistic, the exaltation of virginity borders on paradox. It seems to say that Christianity is defined by celibacy and makes of marriage only a tolerated exception. Again, talking about the Gnostics and how they viewed marriage in the same page 17. The Gnostic sect of the Encratites, which means those who are abstinent against sex, rejected marriage as adultery. This group substituted water for wine in the Eucharistic service and was called the sect of the Aquarians. And then another quotation here, he puts a quotation from Tertullian from the 2nd century, and he's one of the great fathers of the church, from a commentary on the dress of woman and monogamy, and he says, woman is the gate of hell. The Lord himself opens the kingdom of heavens to eunuchs, to those who are not married. Also, St. Ambrose states that St. Ambrosius states that married people ought to be ashamed of the state in which they live. To Clement of Alexandria, he says, Clement said, for woman even to reflect on her nature results in disgrace. Amazing words, but this is history, as I said. About the purity of women, unfortunately, at some stage in the history of the church, we suffered what we call the Judaization of the church, at-tahawud. And we started to look at the woman in the sense of the uncleanliness of the book of Deuteronomy. I've explained this, and I read all what is written in the Didascalia in the Arabic video clips titled Didascalia, which is the teachings of the apostles. And in it they say that women, when they have their periods or after childbirth, are perfectly clean and pure, and they should pray, read in the Bible, and share communion. Please go back to the Arabic video clips and read it if you want the actual words in Arabic. He also says here in the book of the Sacrament of Love that during the Middle Ages, rules and practices can only be explained as an inadequate discernment of the moral and the legal understanding of the Old Testament, such as the temporary removal from church, from the divine service, and from the sacraments, the removal of women after menstruation, and of the mother after childbirth, of the spouses after sexual relations, and so forth. That is being criticized hard as not a biblical teaching. In the medieval West, he also makes a very tough statement here. Scholasticism is the type of theology that tries to confirm things and understand God in full comprehension, in full statements. And he says here, scholasticism favors procreation, that's having children, but castrates love. A very tough but very descriptive statement. He also says, even today a large number of treatises on marriage are written in the West by monks or celibates. This is why they do not achieve their objective and miss the point. It is not appropriate for the married to discourse on monastic life, nor does it suit the unmarried to construct a phenomenology of Eros. The married can talk about marriage, the celibates talk about celibacy, but the other way around, you cannot understand the life and the mission and the vocation of the other. He says, certain church fathers justified marriage only insofar as it brings forth virgins, the children that might be virgins.